It's been 4 years since Maruti launched the Ciaz, and if you're familiar with the life cycle of these sort of cars, you'll know what that means. It's facelift time. Well, this is it, and I've been driving it outside of Bengaluru all of today. It's quite a lot to tell you, and I'm going to tell you everything that's new and what it's like to drive. Well, a facelift means some changes on the outside, so I'm going to try and run through those real quickly. At the front, you'll notice the biggest change is the new grille and the new bumper. There's lots of chrome down here for the fog lamp surrounds, and there's a bit of chrome on the top here too. Also new are the headlamps. They're a little sharper this time. They're LED as well, and there's a new LED DRL signature, which looks nice, but a little bit familiar. Around the side, not much has changed, and that's just fine because you love the length of this car. But what is new are these alloy wheels. Different design and two-tone. At the back, these aren't LED tail lamps, but they do have a nice LED signature within them. And down here, there is a chrome garnish for the reflectors. And just as quickly, here's what's new inside. The dashboard is largely the same, but there's a new lighter shade of imitation wood trim, which is only slightly more convincing. The steering wheel has new buttons on the right side to operate the newly added cruise control, and the updated dials now feature the color MID screen from the Baleno with various interesting dials including a G-force meter. At the back, you still get vast amounts of legroom, but headroom and thigh support leave a bit to be desired. You will, however, like the addition of adjustable rear headrests. On the equipment front, there have been some additions like ESP on the automatic version, LED headlamps and cruise control. But some items that rivals offer are missing here, like a sunroof, side and curtain airbags and auto wipers. Now with a facelift, you expect the usual set of facelift typical changes, and they're all there. Cosmetic changes on the outside and on the inside, and a bit more equipment. However, this one also comes with an entirely new engine. That's right, the old 1.4 litre petrol engine has been replaced by this new K15B 1.5 litre petrol engine, and that makes its debut in India on the Ciaz. What is more interesting, however, is that like the diesel, this one is now a hybrid as well. That's right, it uses Maruti's SHVS hybrid system, and that means a few basic things like stop-start for the engine, an integrated starter generator, and an additional lithium-ion battery to supply that boost. So what does it feel like in practice? Well, I'm driving the manual version right now, and what I can tell you is that at low revs, it feels nice and peppy. And that's great when you're driving in the city because it means you can make quick and easy progress without going too fast. So it's an altogether more relaxed powertrain, and that suits this car just fine. If you do try to rev this engine out, it doesn't feel very willing. It feels a bit strained, and honestly, it does its best work before 3000 RPM, and that's where you should keep it for the most part. Still, without a full load of people or luggage, which is the way I'm driving it right now, it does feel adequate, if not necessarily strong. Let me talk to you a little bit about the SHVS hybrid system. Now, it's a mild hybrid system, and that means it can't run entirely on electric mode. So what it does give you is stop-start. So every time you stop at a set of lights, it will cut the engine to save fuel. And I'm happy to report, even in this manual version, the seamlessness with which it works is really top class. As for that torque boost system, you can tell when it's working by looking at the graphic on the MID screen, but you can't really feel it. Maybe it's a credit to how seamlessly the system works, but quite frankly, I can't tell that the torque boost is there or if it's working at any point. Perhaps it's just the new engine that's a little bit stronger. As you climb the rev band, it's clear that the rate of acceleration starts to drop. and it starts to feel strained. So, as with the previous engine, this one has more of a relaxed demeanor. And that's true of the suspension as well. The ride is comfortable, if a little bit choppy at times, and it's really not one for handling, but that's okay. This is not a racer, it suits its personality just fine. We did also get some brief time with the petrol auto version, and before you ask, no, there will not be a diesel automatic version. Now, as with the pre-facelift car, you can get the petrol version of the Ciaz with an automatic gearbox. And it's the same automatic gearbox as before, which is a 4-speed torque converter automatic. Now there's no doubt it gives you that convenience factor, especially in the city when you're moving gently and slowly, and it doesn't stress out the gearbox too much. However, as you might imagine with an old school gearbox like this, when you ask a bit more of it, that's when the cracks start to show. For instance, I'm currently at about 2000 RPM, and if I floor it, the revs just jump, but the acceleration doesn't build up quite as quickly. Still, I am glad that Maruti chose to stay with the torque converter, which is smoother than going with something like an AMT. Now, if you're curious about the various beeps you might have heard during this video, that's because the Ciaz has been fitted with a speed warning system. It beeps once every 30 seconds after 80 kph and then beeps non-stop once you cross 120 kph. And it cannot be turned off. This is not a flaw in the Ciaz, but something the government is allegedly going to make mandatory for all new cars sometime in 2019. While it might help reduce instances of speeding, suffice to say, drives are about to get a lot more annoying. So with the updates, Maruti has certainly brought the Ciaz closer to its more modern rivals. The new petrol engine with its hybrid system should be especially efficient in city driving. However, the proposition of the Ciaz has not changed at all. It is still the sensible one, the one that scores high on fuel economy, space, practicality and value for money. Now, of course, this might not be the one you choose with your heart. If you like driving and you enjoy being thrilled by the car, certain rivals might do it better. However, if you're buying this car with your head, the Ciaz has gotten a whole lot better.
In the game of entry-level performance motorcycle chess from a global perspective, Kawasaki is a spectator's delight. While other players such as Honda, Yamaha and KTM make incremental moves, Kawasaki rather enjoys making big leaps. That should explain why the Ninja 250 grew up to be the Ninja 300 and now it's evolved rather substantially into the Ninja 400. This evolution has come at a hefty price, however. But is the Ninja 400 exciting enough to make you overlook all that money you're going to have to spend? Let's find out.
It's striking, it's adequately green, and it's got all the contemporary bits you'd expect on a modern-day Ninja. While the overall styling is sporty, it's got a decent amount of visual mass as opposed to going down the size 0 route. At the moment, you can only have the Ninja 400 in the Kawasaki Racing Team color scheme, and that's not something too many of you will complain about. The full LED twin headlights are in line with the new Ninja design language, and the 3-point LED tail lamp will remind you of the Z1000 and the ZX-10R. The instrument console is a slick-looking unit, and it features a negative LCD screen which makes for good readability. In other news, the fuel tank has now gotten smaller at 14 litres as opposed to the 17-litre tank seen on the Ninja 300, which will definitely affect its overall range. Kawasaki has focused a good amount on build quality and finish, and things like the mirror stalks, switchgear, handlebar controls and foot pegs feel quite premium. However, there are some things that aren't quite nice too. For a bike of its price, it's surprising that the Ninja 400 doesn't get adjustable levers, for instance. And then, there are bigger, more thought-provoking imperfections as well. Firstly, the rider's seat has an odd contour which forces you to sit a bit too close to the tank, and it's also unusually narrow at the front, making it uncomfortable over a period of time. And then, you have the humongous sari guard and ungainly grab rails, both of which are government-mandated add-ons which will fetch you a fortune at the scrapyard.
The Ninja 400 isn't exactly what you'd call pretty, but in true Kawasaki tradition, it's quite aggressive. There's more than a hint of the supercharged H2 at the front end, and in KRT colors, it looks just right. Having said that, it feels bigger than the Ninja 300 and also the Z650, although that's not quite the case on paper. On another note, fit and finish levels are quite good, and it justifies its price tag in this aspect.
It surely justifies its price tag in terms of style, but what about the more important bit, substance? Kawasaki seems to have thought about it all, and the result is a machine that's hugely impressive on paper. It started with increasing the bore and stroke of the 300cc parallel twin motor, which resulted in the 399cc capacity, and the compression ratio was hiked up as well. When Kawasaki was finished, it had created a 49 HP motorcycle. That's a whole 10 HP more than you get on the Ninja 300, which now makes it the most powerful motorcycle in its class. An aftermarket exhaust and some clever work on the ECU should see you cross the magic 50 HP number easily. Torque has gone up by an impressive 11 Newton meters as well, taking the total up to a very healthy 38 Nm. It produces peak power and torque lower in the rev range than the Ninja 300 could manage, something that should make it the best entry-level Ninja for urban conditions yet. To top it all, the Ninja 400 features a well-engineered 6-speed gearbox with a slip-and-assist clutch, making for delightful gear shifts and a light lever action. Equally impressive progress has been made in the chassis department as well, with nearly everything being brand new. The high-tensile steel trellis frame is stiffer yet lighter, the telescopic fork is thicker, the wheelbase is shorter, and the steering geometry has gotten sharper as well. Kawasaki has also equipped the Ninja 400 with a bigger 310mm pedal disc while opting for lighter wheels and wider Dunlop tires. As a result, it's now 6 kilograms lighter than the Ninja 300 and is only 3 kilos heavier than the KTM RC390.
A lot of work has gone into making the Ninja 400, but has it really been worth it? Or is it a case of too much for too little? Well, I've never known a Ninja to be disappointing, so let's see if the 400 can keep with that tradition.
It can. The Ninja 400 is a power-packed motorcycle and it rather likes laying all of it down. The parallel twin motor now sounds gruffer than in the smaller Ninjas, and as you go faster, the soundtrack gets better as well. At 5000 RPM, the engine comes into its own, and if you have the will and a safe enough environment to keep the throttle pinned beyond this point, you're in for a lot of fun. Throttle response is quick but smooth, and there's an even spread of power that makes it engaging yet unstressed all the way up to 12,500 RPM when the limiter kicks in. The relentless rain denied us the chance to test the bike, but it would be fair to assume a 0 to 100 kph time around the low 5-second mark. Top speed should be above 180 kph, going by how easily 160 kph shows up on the speedo. It certainly feels quicker, even if just slightly so, than the KTM RC390, and it sports good cruising characteristics as well, with 100 kph in 6th gear coming up at about 6000 rpm. On the whole, the Ninja 400 comes across as a compelling evolution in a package that's fun and very approachable at the same time.
The Ninja 400 is such an indulgence. While it's not as refined as its predecessors, it's a lot more tractable through the rev range and is a whole lot faster as well. While it's not manic or hyper, it's great company on a fast, twisty road. The engine and gearbox come together to provide seamless performance, and in the real world, it's fast enough to keep you hooked for a good number of years.
In those years, what you'll enjoy even more than the performance, however, is the handling. The Ninja 400 feels more athletic than the 300, and it feels at home making quick directional transitions. It also feels very planted, no matter what you throw at it, but it's not boring or too clinical, thankfully. Despite the challenging weather, the Dunlop Sport Max tires had a good amount of grip on offer, and they definitely are a much wiser choice than the IRCs on the Ninja 300. Thanks to the sharper brakes assisted by the dual-channel ABS and, wherever applicable, by the slipper clutch, shedding speed is just never a challenge, even in extremely wet conditions. Lastly, while the Ninja 400 is more committed than the Ninja 300, especially in terms of the higher set foot pegs, its friendly 785mm seat height and reasonably positioned clip-ons still make for a decent riding position over street use. The only niggle is that your right foot remains in constant contact with the exhaust heat shield, which is an oversight you don't expect from a manufacturer with so much experience in creating performance motorcycles. On another note, you will notice the firmer suspension over bumpy roads, especially at the rear, a compromise Kawasaki has made in order to favor more thrilling dynamics.
It's impossible not to be impressed by the Ninja 400. Here's a great looking, well-built machine that's fast enough to convincingly keep you off larger displacement motorcycles such as the Kawasaki Z650 for instance. Speaking of which, you can have the Z650 for just 37,000 rupees more, and it's too tempting a bike to resist. Priced at 4.69 lakh rupees ex-showroom, the Ninja 400 is absurdly expensive, and the 2 lakh rupee price difference between this and the Ninja 300 is very hard to digest. If Kawasaki can substantially slash its price tag, the Ninja 400 will prove to be quite popular, but for now, it's stalemate.
We are on the banks of the river Mandovi in Goa, one of India's favorite tourist destinations, known for its fine beaches, exotic cuisine, and nightlife, music and partying. But if you are a car and bike enthusiast, especially a vintage and classic car and bike enthusiast, there's one more reason to be here today for the 2018 edition of the GTDC Goa Vintage and Classic Car and Bike Festival.
Goa was treated to a sight like never before. Even for hardcore enthusiasts like me, the lineup was special. There was an immaculately restored 1921 Citroën Torpedo Sport and 1923 Fiat 501 that belonged to Suraj and Manoj Kakulo. What caught my eye was the 1959 Morris Mini belonging to Milind Angle, believed to be the oldest Mini in India. He also got his 1960 Mini Traveller. Vintage car owners take a genuine pride in their cars and make huge efforts to come together with their community. Other cars to delight the enthusiasts were a 1941 Chevrolet Super Special Deluxe owned by Rais Khan, a 1960 Cadillac owned by Srinivas Dempo, a 1948 Dodge Power Wagon, and a Volkswagen 1600L 1960 belonging to Dr. Althea Barbosa. The governor of Goa's immaculate 1959 Cadillac limousine was also up on display after a thorough restoration. Many owners drove down their cars from different parts of the country, like Dhananjay Badamekar, who drove his 1939 VW Army car from Pune, and Fram Dondi and Son, who drove down from Mumbai in their Fiat 1100, which we got a chance to drive and is believed to have been driven over 9 lakh kilometers.
Well, I'm 64 years old and the car is 61 years old. I drove down from Bombay and it's been a pleasure driving here. Hope to come again and again.
Nitin Dosa, chairman of the VCCFI, brought down his 1947 Cadillac and was excited by the turnout of cars and the crowds in Goa.
You know, wherever we went, the crowds were there. The crowds are enthusiastic, the cars are beautiful, and the cars have come from all over India, 2 or 3 cities. This is the car which has come from Bombay, others have come from Pune, Bangalore and other places.
Rais Khan, one of Goa's largest collectors, was enthralled by the fact that Goa was witnessing such a large vintage car rally.
I'm surprised that we have so many cars come from Goa as well as from outside. Fantastic collection all over.
Denzel Sequeira's Triumph Spitfire was one of the stars of the show. The largest collection though came from curator of the event Pradeep Nayak of Ashwik Vintage World, who showcased 12 of his cars including a replica of the Benz patent motor car.
Today's event was a good turnout. Different types of cars came from Bombay, Pune, all parts of India. Almost 90 cars and 75 motorcycles came, plus 55 Harley Davidson there who did the piloting. Next year we are trying to do it in November when the climate is better, and we are trying to bring it at a different level altogether.
But it was not all 4 wheels. The turnout was huge in the vintage and classic 2-wheeler segment too. Yash Pai brought in an incredible 16 bikes to the event, including some rare Triumph and Norton motorcycles. If that was not enough to drool over, then there were plenty of BSAs and BMW motorcycles also in the long lineup. Out-of-towners may have brought in some delectable cars, but there were plenty of local participants too, and what made them even more interesting and unique is that most owners worked on their cars themselves. The overall enthusiasm lent a carnival-like feeling to the event, but yes, isn't that what Goa always brings to the table?
Okay, so it's been a great event, it's been a great morning. There have been some exciting cars. We've seen a whole sea of Mercedes-Benz here. We've seen some great British classic cars like the Triumph Spitfire. We've seen some great Minis. We've been seeing some French cars like the Citroen that we have over here. And it's scorching hot here in Goa, but that hasn't really stopped the crowds from coming, from participating. We're happy to see a great amount of enthusiasm amongst the Goans here. And not only the Goans, we've seen people driving down from Mumbai, from Pune, from Bangalore, and there's been a record number of entries, and I think the future of this event is really bright, and we hope to come back soon and cover the event again next year.